I mean, amongst all the finger-pointing and blame games and whatever else that there's been since Labor's thumping election win and consequently the Liberal Party's thumping loss, I think I read the most clear-eyed and sensible analysis in The Australian today from the LNP's Garth Hamilton. He's come to the conclusion that the party has become too invested in blank cheque politics, from things like net zero to the NDIS. Hamilton wrote, "I could include defence spending on helicopters we've decommissioned and submarines we've cancelled. I could speak to our management of the Federation that sees the states compete only for budget blowouts, new taxes, bureaucratic latency and record low housing approvals. The point is that we've changed. We've lost the economic argument. That is the hard truth." And this is a huge problem for the Liberal Party and the coalition as a whole. I mean, you back or support something from a moral standpoint, like net zero or the NDIS, because you think it'll look like the right thing to do. But in doing so, you are committing yourself to decades of uncontrolled spending. And it is on that count that the Liberals lose out, because it means they can't point to themselves as better economic managers, which has traditionally been their strong suit. So you can try to win what you might call the teal people with softer climate and softer social policies, but that hasn't really worked because you've only won one seat back, and that was more to do with a good candidate in Tim Wilson than anything else, and you may well actually lose another seat to another teal, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And then at the same time, you lose people, and there are plenty of them. In fact, arguably a majority of Australians who say, well, this mob is not really that different to that mob, so why would I bother changing the manager? I mean, you're both taking us to $1 trillion of debt, so really, what's the difference? And of course, the things that were different, like nuclear energy, were hidden away. On net zero, Hamilton wrote, "What I do know is that I cannot support any policy that demands a blank cheque and defers the costs of today onto the taxpayers of tomorrow." On how the Liberal Party ended up in such a malaise, he wrote, "The best thing about Peter Dutton was that he brought peace and stability to our party. The worst thing about Peter Dutton was that he brought peace and stability to our party. We needed to rid ourselves of some of that baggage. We needed to have a few internal policy fights to test our resolve. Thomas Jefferson believed every generation needs a new revolution, and I believe the new generation of Liberals need that too." And he's clear that he doesn't want to relitigate the past. Mistakes have been made, we all know that, but the Liberal Party now needs to have the fights that it never really had after it lost government in 2022. "We're a centre-right party," he writes. "If we move towards smaller government, balanced budgets, the individual above the state, we will be headed in the right direction, and Australians with a mind to tomorrow, will follow us. This won't be an easy path, and I've no doubt we've many policy fights ahead, but it's time to acknowledge the peace the Liberal Party enjoyed in the last term, the unity and stability we praised ourselves for, came at a cost. And so it's time to get serious now. I mean, there are clearly divisions still. Susan Lee only won the leadership by 4 votes. So have it out, fight, knock your heads together, come up with something that actually makes sense. People couldn't really give 2 hoots about left or right or up or down or anything else. They just want good policy that makes them feel better off. Now, Robert Menzies set out in 1954 in his We Believe statement that Liberals believe in, amongst other things, the individual, liberty, that the class war is a false war, that improved living standards depend on high productivity and efficient service, that economic power and policy are not designed to control people's lives, the great human freedoms they believe in, and religious and racial tolerance among our citizens. And they are all as noble and relevant today as they were then. And that is what the Liberal Party has to believe in. It is their mission statement, straight from their founder. Now, there are some who think the answer to the Liberal Party is to drag it further to the left, to become effectively the Teals. But there are 2 problems with that. One, it won't work because the Teals already exist. And it wasn't the inner city where the Liberals hemorrhaged seats at this election, it was in the suburbs where the battlers live. You won't win battlers back by going all EV climatista on them. Two, if the Liberal and National coalition breaks up, which is very much on the table, then the Nats are never going to come back and join with a party that has moved its ethos even further away from them, further than they are now. And the Nationals, by the way, haven't lost a lower house seat since 2007. So if the Libs wanted a mate to help them form government, and that's what they've always needed from the Nationals, then the Nats would have some serious demands to make, just as they will now, to keep the coalition going. Dropping net zero is not reckless, and nor is it a mass vote killer. People are now far more concerned about the cost of living than they are about climate change or anything else. Even young people have been hit by reality to some degree. Mission Australia's 2024 Youth Survey found 56% of respondents aged 15 to 19 were concerned about the cost of living, number one, making it far and away the most important issue. It knocked climate change and the environment off its perch, which was in 2023 the top concern for 44% of young people. Last year it dropped to 27%. And this was pretty funny too. Equality and discrimination was knocked out of the top four issues for young people, replaced by violence, safety and crime. What more do you need to know about where the electorate is? Even young people that we're told the Liberal Party needs to win back. And yes, they do. But the fact is, you don't win elections by looking like the other guy. You can't just price match every policy like it's a whippersnipper at Bunnings. You need to be different, and you need to have a vision for the future.